YouTube family. I'm gonna talk about how did I end up here in Singapore. So at first, I was working there in Cebu, Philippines. My job there in the Philippines was an IT specialist. Before that one, I was working as a call center agent. We were handling technical support in a US company. The reason why I'm here is because of some financial problems. I needed a bigger salary to support my family. Well, it's not easy to apply work here in Singapore. If the opportunity is really yours, then you really can have the opportunity on hand. While I was working in Cebu, my friend encouraged me to apply here in Singapore. I tried to decide whether to go or not to go because, if you're gonna leave your family behind, it's quite a challenge for me. Yeah, it's not easy. What I did was I tried to apply it online and go to websites and a lot of websites just to look for jobs there that suited my credentials. Luckily, I was able to find one and was able to schedule for an interview. I was able to talk to the employer and they wanted me to have a personal interview, so I have to visit Singapore. The good thing about that one is I applied for a desktop support. So because I've been working in the IT industry for about more than 7 years, so I applied and they asked me to come to Singapore. So what I did, I applied for a 4-day leave from work because I'm currently working at that time. Then I went straight to Singapore, stayed there for about 4 days only. I stayed at my friend's house for free. My friend Mark Sampson offered me his place that I can stay there for about 4 days with no charge at all. Yeah, that's what friends are for. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, while I'm here in Singapore during my 4 days, there's a little bit of a problem. When I got here, I received an email from the one that will interview me. Will not be able to come to Singapore because of the volcanic ash in UK. Oh, that's quite depressing. Now I was worried that my trip here is a waste because I don't have anything on hand. I only have $50 for my money, and I spent the airfare for the plane. But luckily, I have a backup plan. What's my backup plan? I am also scheduled for an interview for a music school. That's why I'm holding this guitar. I'm scheduled for an interview at the School of Music. So I tried to be there. I went there and got the interview, played some songs there, of course. It's a music school. Then they asked me to come back after a month. I accepted the offer. Yeah, that's good. So I started working there on June. Yeah. What's the next thing to do is to resign from my work. Then I resigned from my work. Then flew here in Singapore. Well, when I got here, I called up my employer, my new employer. I didn't know that there are a lot of requirements here in Singapore. Uh-oh. If you're gonna work here in Singapore, you need to have a working pass. It's called an S-Pass or an employment pass. So when I called my employer, then they said that, it's still May, last week of May, and we were gonna apply your pass on the second week of June or the third week of June. Uh-oh. Then I said to myself, I have nothing to do until the second week of the third week of June. And it's about 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm only allowed to stay here in Singapore for about 30 days. So, what shall I do? If you're gonna be sent to battle, like if you're a soldier and sent to battle, you have to find ways to survive. But the details I will not tell you. Probably some other times when I feel like telling you what I did during those 2 weeks. Now I only have $200 for my allowance. How will you survive $200 as your allowance for a month? The good thing is that my good friend is still the same. He asked me to stay at his place for about a month. I promised to pay him after I get a job and have my first salary. Even though your employer has accepted you and has hired you, but you need to have a work pass. The work pass is applied in the Ministry of Manpower. It'll take about a week. Requirements in applying at the Ministry of Manpower. So you will need your diploma, birth certificate, marriage certificate, and all the certificates you have there. Then your employer will process your pass, and you will be required to collect it after about a week or two. You will receive an IPA, they call it an in principle approval, IPA. That's the proof that you are allowed to work here and stay in Singapore. Luckily, I was approved. I know some of my friends that are not approved. They have to go back to the Philippines and apply again. Keep on trying until you succeed. Just keep swimming, swimming. Just like Dory said, just keep swimming. Here, just keep trying, just keep trying. Then I started working here in Singapore. But here in Singapore, let's talk about your salary. Your salary is only given once a month. So you have to budget your salary for the whole month. Oh, now if you're used to 15th and 30th, here is either it's going to be given on the 30th, on the 1st, or in the 15th. So once a month only. So yeah, I was very lucky that I'm working here for about almost 7 years now. So I got my first job, and after a year, I transferred to another workplace. Now it's my third job in a Japanese company. And in order for me not to get bored or like idle, all I have to do is just play music. Music is my life. Well, that's my procedure 7 years ago. But I don't know the procedure now. If there are some changes, I think there's just some slight changes on the application if you want to apply here in Singapore. But if you're planning to, just try. There's no harm in trying. If you're lucky, then you can get a job here in Singapore. I'll just enumerate some of the problems that you're going to be encountering when you are coming into Singapore. If you're there, for example, in the Philippines, there are some things that you have to consider. There are cases when you're going out from the country, you are not allowed to travel. Like you'll be stopped by the immigration and not allowed to continue to travel going to Singapore. There are some cases like that. If you are kind of nervous when you are talking to the officer, you only have 30 days to stay here in Singapore. And if you're planning to work here, I think 30 days is not enough. Some of the cases you need to apply for a visit extension. Or worst cases, some of them go to other countries, then go back to Singapore again and get another 30 days. But that seldom happens. And if you're lucky enough to get a job here, it all depends on their Ministry of Manpower. If they grant you a pass, then you can work. But if not, you have to go back to your country. Sorry about that one. Behind me is my current workplace, and I've been working for 4 years here. Okay, so when you're given a chance to work here in Singapore, first thing you have to do is to manage your budget. If you don't manage your budget, then you'll be over budget, especially with your food, the drinks, and house. So first thing, if you want to live here, if you want to work here in Singapore, try to consider looking for an affordable place to stay. If you're staying alone, you can just look for a bed spacer. Then if you're having your meal, you can go for some hawker center there. Look for an affordable one. Okay, don't go for expensive places, expensive meals every day. It would be better if you can cook. If you know how to cook, then you can prepare your food beforehand before going to work. Then you'll save a lot of money. One thing you have to remember, or one thing you have to consider if you're working here in Singapore, before anything else, once you get your first salary, all you have to do is settle all your unpaid bills and credits way back in your place. Because those things are very much more important than anything else. Okay? You have to be debt-free or little debt-free. some final tips. If you're working here, always remember that you have to be happy always. Because if you're sad, you will not be able to survive here in Singapore. So always balance your work, your family, and your personal time, and your other extracurricular activities. To those who are working here, please you can share your short experience with me. You can put on your comments below. If you have a video, you can send a link below and I'll watch it. So those of you who are planning to be here in Singapore, if you have some questions, you can post your questions below. And most of all, subscribe please. Subscribe, and if you like this tip, you can put a thumbs up, like, share this video if you like. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time on the next vlog. Thank you very much. Hangin magayo. Hangin. Hindi nagkabalabo na rin.